Welcome to Conversations in Quarantine. I'm here with Susan, Dustin, Hattan, Neeb, Aldous, and she's imprisoned in Australia.
I am, but it's not prison, and I'll get to that later because that's my bugbear right there.
So tell us about Australia. What are they doing? Do they like Americans there? Are we going to be allowed to travel there ever again?
Not for a very long while. And I don't think just Australia. I think it's going to be most of the world. Europe right now, the EU's refusing. They're not going to put Americans on the list, the travel list. So until America can consider doing something like Australia's doing, as difficult as it is, and for as much as it costs, it is really the only way forward as far as I can see.
So tell us, what was you arrived, how you
Okay, so
yes,
it started before I left America. I was at LAX, and before I could even get on the plane, the American ground staff had to call through to Australia and talk to, I guess, border control and get clearance. And there was a few iffy moments there. It was very scary. And they had to say my name several times and give my passport number. And I was holding my breath because I didn't know if I'd be allowed on the plane. Thankfully, I was. And just the whole flight was very bizarre because the air staff announced that this was their last flight. So there was a real sadness, and everyone clapped for them and thanked them. But I think we all felt that sense of, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And just a real vulnerability. And as we were on the plane, we were given a form that said, where are you going to self-quarantine? So we're going, what? We heard we were going into quarantine, government-sponsored quarantine, and what do you mean? And I couldn't go and stay with my 86-year-old mother coming out of the States. So it was a very scary prospect. And the pilot says, I can't give you any more information. We've never seen this form before. It's the first time it's been handed out. I'm trying to get information from Australia and we can't get it. So the entire flight, we had no idea what was going to happen. We arrived in New Zealand and were very carefully checked to go into the area we were waiting for our next flight. And they were wonderful. They were happy and kind and sweet and above and beyond, actually. So that was a good sign. And we get on the plane, and then all of a sudden we had to wait an hour because they were, again, checking newcomers that were meeting in New Zealand to go back to Australia. And 7 people were denied access. They couldn't board. Out of 20 people, 7 were refused, and we weren't given a reason why, but wow, talk about strict. So that was quite a shock. When we arrived in Australia, it was announced again and again and again. We had to deplane 20 people at a time. We had to put masks on. We were checked. Our temperatures were taken. Long lines of officials really corralling us and making sure we were doing the right things and not getting off path. They were kind, they were polite, but boy, they had authority. And it took a long time to go through the checks. We were told you're going to be put up in a hotel. And we were also told that we'd be here at the Crown, which is the casino hotel. It's a fabulous hotel, actually. I have a suite with huge big windows overlooking the whole city and the river. It's beautiful. So that was a bit of a relief. And also that all our medical expenses and needs, our food, everything would be taken care of. So we were then put onto a bus. We had to sit separately. We were only allowed off the bus 1 person at a time when we arrived at the hotel. There was 500 people staying here that day. I think 500 people, yes. Now it's 450 today. And we were then taken one by one. All our forms were checked by the authorities. We were checked in. We were not allowed to touch the lifts. We were not allowed to touch any buttons. We weren't allowed anything. Just basically like this now, but we're not even carrying our own bags. They were all taken for us. And that was it. We were locked in the room. And I've been here, this is day 12. So, and I've had one walk outside under escort with 2 officers on the driveway for 15 meters back and forth in the driveway. And that's it. And that's it.
A couple of speed bumps in life and speed bumps on your walk.
That's right. 2 speed bumps. I was allowed to walk between 2 speed bumps. And yeah, it's very strict, but they're very kind. Every day we have nurses call and check on us now, if any symptoms. Also, there are mental health nurses available, which I've been accessing because I actually had a few anxiety attacks while here. And they were really good about it. And then they had a doctor call and check. They're very thorough. I've had 2 COVID tests. And when I'm done, they will escort me out pretty much as I came in and put me in a taxi and take me all the way. They'll pay for it all the way to my next destination within the state, within the city. So they're really doing a, you know, from wherever you're taking off from overseas, right to getting you home and making sure you're not COVID positive. And if you are, you're then taken to another facility, which is a hotel, but it's set up to medically treat and care for positive patients.
So is this just a speed bump in your life there? It's 14.
No, it's a major upheaval. It's a major, major overturn because I've lived in Thailand for 30 years. That's where my home is. That's where all my legal work, paperwork, my possessions, everything I use for the projects I do. I had a few clothes and a few things to last me 3 months. And I had to leave everything because I was not allowed back into Thailand, and we don't know if I ever will be, or I've lost my long-term visa. It could mean I've lost all my possessions. If it wasn't for the help of 2 wonderful friends, they went to my apartment and got my legal documents and FedExed them to me, which they should arrive today, because I can't even prove who I am outside of a passport. I can't back it up, my name change and all these things, so that I can even get any, outside of what I'm getting now, medical assistance or any help. I'm really in no man's land, and that's what the anxiety's been about. So yes, it's not been easy. I mean, for the most part, I determined I'm going to be incredibly positive about this and try and be compassionate to others and grateful and put in good practices that keep me sane and try and see it as a positive thing. But it's been really hard. And it helps me understand that a lot of the world is like this. My case is quite extreme in that, you know, I've been abroad for so many years, almost 40 years. And so my life has been overseas, not in Australia.
Well, they put you in isolation there, essentially. So you're in your cell, but somehow, how are you reaching out to the world?
Yeah, that's been incredible because before I came, I started to read a few reports, and there's been 2 suicides, 2 attempted suicides, and one was successful, sad to say. Probably people went into these situations with, you know, great stress or whatever their problems may have been. And that's why they have mental health care workers on call. But I read 2 girls were saying, it's just like being in prison. Well, I worked for 10 years full time in some of the world's worst prisons with deplorable conditions. And some people were innocent in those situations. And I thought, you have no idea what a prison is like, even a good one. And I don't see many countries around the world offering their citizens such care, concern, and help. It may not be perfect, but let me tell you, in my viewpoint, it's excellent. So I determined before I came in, I was going to prove those girls wrong. And I decided to develop strategies. So that is create daily schedules. I journal, I write, I exercise. I have an exercise ring, which I use to count my steps, my heart rate, my sleep quality, which is really important. So I try to practice good mental health for myself, and I reach out to people. So this is an important step. So I reach out to people like this. I host Zoom meetings. I do laughter yoga every weekend, which we have people from all around the world get together and laugh and share positive things in our experiences. And then I've been actually a part of some other meetings with Buddhist monks from Thailand, with again people from all around the world, and we had a wonderful discussion on humanity, and it was such a great connection. But outside of that, I've tried to make myself available. So I've been actually counseling, working with, walking some people through their relatives dying, helping support where others, family members are having babies. But outside of that, within this hotel, every time a nurse calls, I have a quote ready. And so we do the daily business, and she asks, what's your symptoms? Do you have any symptoms? And I say, nothing besides an extreme case of gorgeousness, which is wasted in this room. And that just gets them cracking up laughing. Or I'll say, oh, I'm just a bit of a pain in the ass today, or, you know, just something that's positive and joking. And they always say, your energy is so upbeat. You're so positive. It's so nice to talk with you. And I say, can I give you a small gift before I leave? And they say, sure, what? And I say, every day I read a different quote to whoever calls. And I offer up a quote that something along the lines that validates them and what they're doing and their caregiving. And then I thank them. Sometimes they're almost in tears. And sometimes they say, I'm going to call you first tomorrow. And so that's really nice. And then I decided to, because I have to, when they ring the doorbell to bring the food 3 times a day, I have to step back and wait till they've stepped away before I open the door. So I've started opening the door in the morning and screaming down the hallway, good morning. And then the guards started to answer back. And then the food delivers, and I'd say, thank you. And so we've started this. And then I started to hear other rooms doing it too. And I just thought, be an influence for good where you can be, even if it's just small, silly things. Just bring humanity sort of into our whatever connection we can create. So today, when they bought the food, or it was last night, the food delivers. She's obviously had me before, and she stood there and she just smiled and she went, thank you. So trying to beat me to it. So that was really great. I was really happy about that. That was a win. Victories in quarantine.
Well, thank you for sharing, because hopefully we'll get up to this in America, or we'll all just die. I don't know what's going to happen here. So,
well, at the very best, you're going to have an economic crisis because you won't be able to trade with other countries and work with other countries and travel, and and you'll become more and more isolated by not isolating. And I think that's a really silly thing to do.
Hopefully we'll take our time.
Yes, I hope so. I mean, I see some states are starting to think about this and enforce wearing masks and stepping up a bit. So let's hope.
All right. Well, we'll rejoin you for some quotes. Conversations in quarantine.
Okay. My pleasure. Opens up the world for me. I'm out in 2 days, so you better go quick.